All right, this is Jeff with the Big Hairy Dog. This is a webinar on physical inventory for Prism. This is Prism 2.2, just came out. I am still wrestling with some of the doc designs. I apologize for that, but the process is the same. And this is being recorded, so everybody can come back and see me play around with this again, because that's so exciting. All right, physical inventory is a process. I'm not going to go into the prep deeply, but I will say that if you aren't prepped properly for this, you really shouldn't be counting your stuff. I'm just going to say that everything needs to be tagged, organized, pre-counted if necessary. You need to be ready to do this. Otherwise, you really are wasting your time. So, okay, the process basically is 4 steps. There's only 4 steps. The 4 steps repeat once for each physical inventory. I have some notes that I use that are not bad, but this was from a V9 thing, but I'm going to bring it over here because I like to see that. I like everybody to see the basic steps here, right? And I need to maybe update these for Prism slightly. I'm not 100% sure. Well, it says we have 6 people registered. We'll see if any more show up. If not, then they just missed out, right?
Yep.
So start, count, look at your discrepancies, update. That's it. In a nutshell, you have to start it. When you start it, you create a count sheet. The count sheet, of course, copies your on-hand quantities into the count sheet and thereby freezes them, right? Now, they're not frozen in real life. In the inventory, they're still very much alive, right? So, but the count sheet is then set in stone. And that becomes the reconciliation point, the thing we measure inventory by. Then we count the stuff, and we have both the count and the starting quantity. That allows us to get discrepancies, right? And I'm struggling a bit with the doc designs on discrepancies here, and we'll see that when I get to it. I may have to log an issue with the developer on 2.2 if we can't get it to work, but this gives you a chance to review the discrepancies, right, and make changes. Now, the little line in my notes here is not just a little line for prettiness. That's a very important threshold in the process that you want to get past. Once you've started frozen your inventory, once you have counted all your stuff, you can open the store and make sales. So this is a very important concept. Why is that true? Why do we not have to accept the numbers and write the quantities before we start selling the quantities and they start changing, right? So the process, the calculation, shall we say, is this down here. This thing right here. The new quantity will equal the current quantity on hand plus the difference. So if we walk through my little scenario here, we have 10. And we start, and it copies the 10 over into the count sheet. And of course, we haven't counted anything, so we're short everything. We go count 8, therefore we're short 2. Okay, so at this moment in time, if I take the current on hand and add the discrepancy, I get 8. That works. But if I sell 5, does it still work? Yes, it does. If I had 8 and I sold 5, I would have 3. And if I have 5 and a -2, I have 3, right? So that works. So the count that we're actually putting in the system is not being used. It's just being used to create the difference or discrepancy that's actually affecting inventory, right? Now, if you were to be open and sell one, now assuming my scenario here, right? If you were to sell one before you counted it, you would not be able to count it, right? Unless you know that it's sold. So if you then only counted 7, you would get a variance of 3. And your on hand would have changed because you sold one. That one don't work. So you have to count everything in the store, right? When you hit the start button, you have to count everything in the store, period. No exceptions, right? Now, that means you need a good plan. Either come in early and hit the floor and be wrapping up the floor when you open and then count the stockroom, or close early, and in which case I would start counting the stockroom at, if I'm closing at 6, I'd start counting the stockroom at like 4. I'd load the scanner up because I can't upload it until I start the physical, but I could have the thing pretty full and ready to go by 6, right? So, so have a good plan, because, or you could start the inventory and start counting the stockroom, and then when you lock the door, run a report for everything you sold and just upload that as a count, right? That's a common strategy too. You just got to know, you got to know, like, if you're open and selling stuff and counting the back room, then everything you sold while that physical was in use, it should have been counted. Therefore, everything you sold could be counted, and we can just upload that. We don't have to go key it in or something, right? So, all right, enough with the theory here, right? We should get out and do a few of these steps. So let's do step 1 here. Let's start the inventory, right? So we're going to go into store operations, merchandise, physical inventory. Now I have one here that I was playing with a little bit earlier, and I closed it, so we'd be in a position to start a new one, right? We just click new. We give it a name, so PI, June 2023. Why am I a year behind? All right. Now you can create with a filter, or you can create and most of us do the whole store. So most of us are going to be create. To create with a filter would be doing like a cycle inventory, where I'm going to do men's accessories today, and then in a couple of days I'm going to do men's shorts, and then I'm going to do men's tops, and I'm going to have a plan that I've mapped out over the 9 months or something to count them all. Usually we don't do cycles in the fourth quarter, but usually we do the whole store. I will tell you, cycle inventory is amazing. It absolutely helps the culture of the store. It makes people much more aware of physical inventory and inventory issues. And it is a full level above doing a full physical. If you think a physical is hard, try doing a cycle, because you have to run a report, target the items, find them, map them, know where they are for the day of the count, right? So when you're doing a full store, everything's getting counted. Like, you just have to have a map that encompasses everything. Like, you have to know where everything is, but anything, anywhere, even if it's out of place, is still going to get counted, right? So anyway, we're going to click create. Thank you. I encourage participation as much as you feel like it. So ask questions, jump in. If you don't understand it, somebody else out there doesn't understand it, right? So, okay, it's created. That's step 1. Step 1 is pretty easy, actually. So if we go into the PI sheet and look at it, yeah, we don't have any scanned quantities, and whatever we started with, that's what we're short. Now, I probably should pause here, although we can't take a ton of time in preferences, but again, this is 2.2. It's brand new. I have not had a chance to even look at these screens. I realized yesterday I was doing a PI inventory today, and I came in a little early and tried to get on it, but I had an early morning appointment, so I have not had a great deal of time to tweak this. But that's kind of good for us, right? So, like, I am not using UPCs, and whereas most of us use UPCs to a certain extent, we are not, I would say, with the exception of 2 of my clients, we're not 100% UPC. In fact, most of my clients are not 100% UPC, right? So here, I would be much more benefited. I would appreciate seeing the ALU field more than the UPC field, because I'm 100% internal SKUs, right? So if you guys have been playing with Prism at all and gone through any of the setups, and we'll modify that screen real quick, and we can modify all the screens, and maybe we'll come back depending on what the time is and what we got to get accomplished today. But there is an admin console under node preferences, right? And you want to generally, I'm finding that the sweet spot for preferences is inside the subsidiary, but above the stores. That seems to be where you can set more of the preferences. A lot of them won't let you set them if you're above the subsidiary, and if you're inside the store, then you're setting up like just for a workstation or just for one store. So grid formats is what we're talking about. and then we can go down and pick the area that we want to modify, right? And they appear to be alphabetical, so shouldn't they be right there? PI sheet. Looks like the only one. Let's see here. Search by. That's really not what we're looking for. We're looking for, and 2.2 sort of changed this menu. This menu was, well, all right. So I am not seeing physical inventory in that list. So I guess we are going to hang tight on that. I'm not sure what that is. I just loaded this, so it's all right. Well, we are going to just move on. I should have been able to add columns to the various screens in there, but again, I just loaded 2.2 and it doesn't apparently want to let me. So we will, since that's really not the core product here, we'll move on, and I will have to investigate that offline. All right, so here I have my physical inventory. I'm going to go back into the PI sheet. Now I turned on zones. I am a big fan of zones. I'm not sure everybody is. I have clients that do it both ways. If you have a large space that you're counting, the best way to count it is to break it into smaller pieces, count each smaller piece, and sort of reconcile each smaller piece. And if each smaller piece was counted correctly, then the whole count should be correct, right? In theory. So zones give you the ability to designate a section, a wall, a fixture, whatever you want it to be, really. It's typically not filterable. I mean, it's not men's, because men's could be scattered all over the store, right? So it's more geographic. It's that table, it's that slat wall, it's those fixtures, that H rack, whatever. So for me, I could go into zones and I could start creating zones. So when I hit start, if I have people that are going out in the field and starting to scan and they're scanning zones, then I'm going to go in here and start creating those zones. So the zones name, it could be pretty big. It was 20 characters. It looks like it's still 20. I did a typo on the one there. So the point being, if you're doing more than one store, you could say, this is store one, men's, 100, whatever. You could have a nice naming convention here if you needed to. Now, if you don't use zones, then you can still do everything that we're looking at, and we can take a look at that if we need to. But I will tell you that when you upload to a zone, you can delete the zone. If you upload and you're in simple mode and you don't have zones, then you're kind of like pouring a bucket of water into a pool. You're not getting those counts back out once they mix in, right? So it depends on how you want to roll that one, right? So we give it a name. We probably say what it is, like if you wanted to say it's teas and who counted it, who scanned it. It's a good idea to know who scanned it and maybe a brief description of it, but not required, right? Create. So boom, one's created. Now I could just start here. I could just start slamming these out, right? So I could just start putting these things in. So if I have a map and I have a plan and I have a bunch of zones, I'm just going to start hammering those things in here, right? While the people are starting to scan, I'm going to be setting up my zones so that I can upload those when they walk up, right? Now we can collect data either by manually keying it in here, by uploading it from a file, or by a portable scanner. Now most people use a portable scanner. There are a number of different portable scanners that talk directly to Prism and Retail Pro. If you wanted to, you could also export all your items out to Excel, or run a report and export them from a report. And then you could use Excel and count them. And I have a client that they sell cosmetics. They only have like 80 active items in inventory, right? So they just export everything out to Excel. They walk around the store and they put the quantities in, and they walk back over and they key them all in. So they use simple mode because who has 80 items, right? But it works really well for them because they can sort them alphabetically in the right order, and then they can sort the screen in the same order, and then they can just key in the numbers they collected, and they're done. Boom. Most of us have more than 80 items. So we select a zone if we're using zones here, and we go into the zone sheet. And in the zone sheet, we have different tabs up here. So I'm going to, we could import items with a scanner. I'm going to import items since I don't have a scanner on my box here. I created a few import files. And so although I have an import map, I'm going to create one for us today, right? So I'm going to say import, and I'm going to go down here to the import button, and I'm going to say new, and we're going to give this a name. So I'll just call this ALU, and click continue, and it's going to ask me the mapping schema name you entered is already in use. It is not. We'll call it import then. The other name is called ALU6, by the way. It's not in use. This seems to work really well with delimited. It seems to be a bit of a challenge with fixed length. I don't know. I haven't tested it in 2.2, but in 2.1, it did not like to play with fixed length OL, and it may work much better. But I'm going to say delimited is still better. If you can just put a comma in the middle of the string, and that's the break point, then it knows how to look up UPCs, and it knows how to look up, like, so I could say there's UPCs in here and there's ALUs in here, and the for column 1 is the item column, the lookup column, and column 2 is the count, right? Keep it simple, right? So we'll see if this works here. We'll click save, and now we'll select, see, ALU6, it was not named ALU, but we'll click on import, right? And we'll click continue. And now I get to go choose a file. So I'm going to just choose some of these files here that I set up earlier. And I'm going to click import. Okay, and we're going to get rid of that error because that is goofy. And I forgot that if you don't go in and turn off the warning messages, they don't go away. You have to give them a timer, and then they go away. But if you don't, then they just stay there forever, which is a little awkward. All right, so I just imported a bunch of quantities. Typically we would print those out. And I toyed around with this earlier, and it's not bad. It's still missing a few things, but you see, it's printing too many items. It's printing some items that we didn't upload, which is a little awkward. But again, I'm still working with the doc designs on this new version. And then somebody could then go back out and double check that to whatever degree would be appropriate. Meaning that when I first started in retail, we double counted everything, but that was a few years ago. I'm not sure today we have the payroll and the time to double count everything. On the other hand, if you've got a rounder of leather jackets, we're probably going to double check the whole rounder. If we've got a count section that includes like chapstick, I'm not going to count a tub full of loose chapstick. I'm not going to double check it. If I'm short one, I'm short one, right? So use your good judgment on to what degree you would double check this, right? Because if we needed to modify this, we could modify this right now. So I could change this, I believe, here to a 4, right? I could just go fix this. Oh, 56 is not right. That should have been a 5, right? So if they were to go out and say, look, it's mostly right, but it looks like they fat fingered that. It shouldn't have been 56. It should have been 5. Okay, I fixed the one that's wrong, and now we feel good about the count, right? So, you got to sample people's counts. Some people can scan really well, and some people can't scan to save their life. There's plenty to do. we have to face the product so it can be scanned. We have to turn it back around so it's presentable for the customer after it's scanned. We got trouble items that can't be scanned that go to the trouble area that need to get retagged. So there's tons of stuff to do. You don't have to be the guy shooting the gun per se, if that's not your thing. So if we then feel like this one is double checked and counted correctly, then we would merge it, right? We'd merge this into the master count. Then it's like the bucket going into the pool. The water is being mixed now. We've gotten that one in there. We'll close this. Now, zone 2, actually, I'm going to skip to zone 3 here because zone 2 is exactly, all these are a copy of each other. The files are all the same, except zone 3, I threw a bad item in. So if we go into the zone sheet now, we can go to imported and import zone 3. We're going to pick our import one we just made, continue, and we're going to grab the zone 3, which should have a bad item in it. I threw an extra item in it that won't upload because it doesn't exist. Right, so import complete, however, it contains bad scans, right? Because so if we go to bad scans, it's showing us the bad scan. So now we could see, I just keyed in a wacky number, right? So I could go look up the item. So I could just go in and say, okay, I know what that item was. We went over and found it. And it's, whatever, it's this item here, right? And I could just correct it that way. Or I could have, there's a clear button at the bottom, like clear selected. You can see it right here, or clear all. You could have cleared them. Some people like to clear them and then move them into a trouble area and get them properly tagged and stuff like that. Some people like to just fix it on the fly, and it's totally your call, right? Whatever way you want to roll with that one. Again, though, there's the items we imported now with the additional one that I added. We could print those out. We could double check those, and then we would merge them. Let's go back over the notes and make sure we've kind of stayed on track here. Okay, so some of these the paths here are wrong because this is from version 9, but you have to go create the zone. You have to add the counts, right? And you can do it with a portable scanner. We did not. Count sheets, we really don't. In Prism, we don't really have the ability to create a count sheet. Although I could in a report, I could in a crunch report, I could create a count sheet like thing if that's something that you would use. Right, so if there's errors, we have to locate the items and resolve the errors, right, that we just did. Some of the older scanners you have to clear. So the newer ones, the smart scanners you don't, the dumb ones you do. So there are like Foundry Logic, a very smart scanner, by the way, very nice scanner. The Zebra scanner and the Foundry Logic software together make a nice product. And that particular product has its own database. So we export the Oracle database into its little SQL database. So when you have a bad scan, you wouldn't see it like I presented it today. You would know that it's a bad scan at point of scanning, not at point of upload. Right? So it would say, beep, this item is not found, and you would pull it out right then. I also like the Foundry Logic because you can name the zones. So if you're scanning zone 1, 2, 3, you can say this is 1, 2, 3, and then you can go over and scan 1, 2, 4, name it 1, 2, 4. Then you could upload them both, and it's a wireless upload. However, we have other scanners too. We have the old Percon PTs. They're still hanging around. I think they were here in the 90s when I got here. They're still here, rock solid. I mean, dumb as a day is long, but they understand a barcode. They upload the barcode. They associate a quantity with it, but they don't know what the barcode is. So that when they upload, it would be exactly like I did. We'd be importing or uploading a basic scanner. It would be trying to find those items during the upload, and you would error at point of upload, just like I did, and you'd have a bad scan. And there are a few other scanners out there too, but those are the ones we see most of the time right now. Okay, so print out the good scans and double check them and merge the zone. That's the process, right? So if you have a good plan and you have dotted every I, crossed every T, gone through your map, you've accounted for every zone, you've double checked the ones that are worth double checking, right? And you've merged everything, then step 2 is complete, right? And then that could mean running a sales report and then exporting that to Excel and then importing it as a count, right? Which wouldn't be hard to do. I mean, you get it into Excel, delete all the descriptions. All you need is the SKU and the quantity. Save it as a CSV and boom, upload it, right? Just like I did. Super easy. All right, so then that would bring us to close this. Oh yeah, we still got zone 2 that I never uploaded. I guess I should. Now it doesn't say these are. Let me just back it or close this. Let's go back to zones. All right, let's just go to zone 2. Let's go to zone sheet. Let's go to import real quick. Import this one. We'll use our import map next. Pick a zone 2 file. Now, if you guys have any questions, don't be shy. Right, so we're going to just say merge that. Yep. So now it says all items were merged, right? So when I close this, I'm looking at the zones, shouldn't this be checked off?
You would think.
I would think. I would totally think that. So what if I go like this? I can't check more than one of those actions. Mark merge. Okay, let's say merge here. Okay, well, I guess that's mark all, merge marked. Okay, I'm not sure why it didn't refresh the markup. And when I backed out and came back in, it didn't refresh it. So I'm pretty sure we're merged now though, right? So close that, which brings us back upstairs into the PI sheet, right? So now we should be able to see our discrepancies. Right, so we started with 12, we scanned 6, we are short 6. We started with 47, we scanned 15, we're short 32, right? So this here, then we would want to go through this and double check these. And of course, this is a sandbox. That's literally all the inventory I have. I apologize. I don't have real data here, but we can't show real data. It's sort of unethical. And what I was struggling with, and we'll see if it blows up again, it probably will. I was trying to get that scan quantity to print there. So let's go take a preview and see if that's working. Oh yeah. So apparently that first merge did not do it correctly, because that second merge I just did just now, it's caused the scan quantity to start working. So so with this though, with this in hand, you could now, I got the zone name in there oddly, weirdly, and the discrepancy too close. And so I don't know how many of you guys play with the document designer, but I happen to have it open in the background here. So we could go and like clean that up right now if we wanted to, right? I could just grab these things and move it over and get that away from the discrepancy. And we could hit save, and we could go back around and try that again. Okay, let's get, so that's my real desktop. That's my real background. Those are real notes. Let's go back into the virtual machine. Let's try minimizing just the virtual machine's doc designer and try reprinting this. I racked my head on that particular design. I could not make that thing print. And I said, you know what? It's time to go. You just got to go, right? And then it works for you guys. You guys must live right or something. Right. So of course it's a mess because, you know, All right, so with the discrepancies, you go search those out and fix them as needed. See discrepancies, start, right, scanned. Let's try something here. Add counts. So can I, no, I guess I can't add counts because I'm not in simple mode. So I guess to add counts, to modify things, I'd have to go back to zones and make a new zone, which I'm not opposed to this, by the way. Some people don't like it. I like it because I think it leaves a really great audit trail. So, I guess I could go back and forth on that, but if you wanted to, I'm pretty sure. Let's see if this works here. Zone sheet. Add counts. So in here, can I add counts? I guess I can't take one back. No, it will not let me put a negative quantity in there, so we'll have to toy with that. In V9, you could go in and like take 3 from this one and add 1 to that one. So we would often just put things into a correction zone when we're trying to make corrections, because then it would just go out and hit all the spots, and we could just key in what we want to have changed. Cancel. Right. PI sheet. Well, I apologize. I'm not able to make this version Prism 2.2 work. I can't get into the scan fields to modify these counts, and we can't take counts away here. So I apologize. We're not really getting where we need to be today. You should be able to modify these fields. So
Do you have to check your box all the way to the left before you can modify it?
we will try that, but I'm pretty sure you don't. See, it won't still won't let me in there. It's a good call, by the way. Thank you. Of course, the other trick is F2 is sometimes I can edit hotkey that lets you, you know what, let's try something else that's really weird, by the way. I don't think this is viable, but let's just see if copy. I would hope this is not the case, by the way.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense if it was.
No, yeah. I think you know where I'm going. Yeah, it really doesn't make sense, by the way. But I'm going to try it anyway because So let's just say we're taking 2 away from this guy. Would it let me do this here, right? Would it let me bring in a negative quantity and then move it over to another item, which would seem way too much work to just make a simple correction. But
Right.
all right.
Exactly.
It would seem almost foolish that you'd have to do anything like that, but let's just see here. Go in here, let's just piggyback on that one, right? Zone sheet, import, it should fail. It should give us positive quantities for both is my guess, because it didn't let me type it in, so why would it let me import it, right? But we'll find out. Import, next, choose a file. And this can't be the only way, because I was able to do it in 2.1. Oh, that is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it absolutely let me upload a negative quantity just fine. Didn't have a problem with that at all. And now if I merge that, of course, and I'm not sure why this merge doesn't seem to work. It clears the sheet, but then I have to come back up here and I have to check off that zone and merge it from here, right? Actions, where was
Yeah.
I here? Actions, yeah, merge. I mean, you see why I kind of like I like seeing like for bigger companies that want an auditor wants to see what did you correct. You know, it's nice to have an audit trail that you could just pull up and say, here's all my corrections. I took 2 out of that, I put 2 in there, right? In that respect, it's really nice for bigger corporate people. The smaller you are, though, the more you just want to go. You just want to go fix your stuff, right? You don't really want to have to jump through all those hoops and not be able to see here. Yeah, so we could unmerge these. So I'm guessing that the solution here, short term, would be that you would have to go unmerge a given zone. And once unmerged, you could then go probably in and modify the counts in that thing. Yeah, there you go, right? So if you unmerge that, then you can go change those and tweak them all up to your, that's a lot of work though, to go into each zone and unmerge it and then remerge it, right?
Yeah, extra step.
I mean, you can mark all and unmerge all and unmerge. So I unmerged them all actually, and then I went back and marked them all and merged them again in a quick second. So in that respect, I will give them credit for making that easy. You can unlock all the zones, go fix what you want, and then just merge them all again instantly. But yes, it would be nicer if we could edit that at the higher level. Although in V9, honestly, in the previous version, they tied the editing to the zones. So, you'd click on it and say, I want to change this from a 5 to a 2, and it would pop up and say, which zone do you want to have that edit be in? And it would make you go back and basically target a zone to change. And if the item, in fact, was missed, we didn't scan it at all, so therefore it was in no zones, right? Then you couldn't make the edit. You could say, like, I could take 2 away from that item, but I can't put the 2 on the other one until I go and actually make a zone and add it to a zone. So, I'm not sure that it's that far off from V9 and when you were in zones. So we should wrap this up and go take a look at simple mode to see if simple mode is better. Closing this. So back to the notes here for a second. Obviously, once you have resolved all your discrepancies, then you're just looking to do the update, right? That's the final. So we close our physical, check it off. Down at the bottom, say update PI, right? We would say all counts, and we would give it a good reason, like it would be physical inventory. And I'm guessing that everybody out there knows that this pretty much would always be all counts. This was a bug in previous versions, by the way, that it would default to quantities only. And defaulting to quantities only is very bad because if you start with a quantity 2 and you don't count it, you didn't count it because you don't have it, it doesn't get updated because it has no quantity. So it carries the shortage forward to the next physical, right? So if you didn't count it, it's because you don't have it and it needs to go to 0, update all everything, right? Everything all the time. So anyway, that would be, and then just click update and it would go right the adjustments, right? So I'm going to, interesting, update start quantity and send PI sheet, interesting. Those are good. We're going to deactivate that, go change our preference and start a simple physical just so we can see that that modifying discrepancies piece and see if it's better, because I know a lot of early adopters of Prism definitely have been using simple mode because it's just been easier to edit your physicals. And I was really hoping 2.2 was going to be considerably better, and maybe it's maybe a little better, but maybe it's not really that much better. All right, so we're going to turn off zones. We're going to go back to simple, save, and let's log out. Make sure that, I don't think we need to, but I'm just going to reset this real quick to make sure that there's nothing getting in our way. Come on. So that's what you get when you get a little virtual machine. It doesn't have the same memory as your regular machine, right? All right, and that was a Control Shift Delete, by the way. This is Control Shift R. Control Shift R resets it. And now let's go back into physical and start a new physical real quick. Okay, so store operations, merchandise, and physical inventory. And we'll click new. So this is a new one in simple mode. All right, so we're gonna check that off, go into the PI sheet. All right, so now zones is grayed out as it should be, right? But we have an import tab here. We could say we want to import, and we're going to choose our import map, and we're going to click continue, and we're going to grab one of those files. We'll just grab zone 1 here and say import. All right, so that's imported. And now if I wanted to go to PI sheet here, okay, I still don't see. So here, right, so if I say merge, so I guess they have a kind of a, almost like a zone thing here, don't they? So I could clear all, or I could click merge. Now when I click merge here, guessing that brings it over to here. Yep. Now can I edit this? Yeah, see, I can here. So in simple physical mode, you can edit this right here. You can just make your changes on the fly, which is very similar to version 9, actually. So, all right, and we have Jeremy. I didn't see you join. That's nice. Welcome. So that's roughly the process, the 4 steps of physical. Just you start, you count, you get your discrepancies, right? You make your corrections, and then you update. In a nutshell, right? Is there anybody have any questions about this? Anybody have anything else they'd like to see?
So if you weren't going to go ahead and import your counts and you were going to manually go in and change them, how do you get all your information there?
Well, all right. So if you're going to manually key them in, so you mean like, for instance, you're going to use add counts manual mode, and you're gonna like do this, and
I suppose it's how.
So what I would suggest there is, okay, it's all about organization. Okay, so let me see if we have anything on here that I can. What do we have here? Okay, refresh. My front server is probably not working. Oh, it's not on at all. Well, that'd be why, wouldn't it? If the Crunch Apache is not working, and then Ixnay on the Unchcray, right?
Right.
All right, so here's my rough take on that is that I would run a report for on hand, I would export that to Excel, and I would organize the Excel spreadsheet and add an account column, right? And I would then divide the store up in the Excel spreadsheets up, and I would count it in Excel or something, right? Because in Excel, I could save it as CSV, and then I could import it. So my concern is we human beings are terrible at making stupid mistakes, right? We do them, and we don't. If we knew we were doing, we wouldn't do them, right? So, you know, the other option would be another option I've seen people do actually. If the environment's small enough, you could, I believe, put the cursor here and scan, like just take a roll rack, bring it over to the register, and just scan everything on a roll rack, and then take the next roll rack. So if you had 2 roll racks or 3, and you had people feeding you, you could just, they could roll the stuff up, you could scan it down, they could put it back, and then you could take the next roll rack, scan it down, they could put that one back, take the next roll rack, scan it down. You know what I'm saying? So if you did a scanner would read the barcode and it would add a carriage return, enter at the end of it, right? So it'd just be going beep, 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 beep in that field. You follow? A little
Yeah.
awkward. Dragging everything up to the register is gonna say, I'm just gonna say awkward, right? What do we get here? If we do a quick search for items, we must have item discount, item sales. I want inventory is what I want. What do we get? Inventory cost changes. Come on, okay, let's try on hand. I never know what they call their reports, right? Let's try spelling it correctly today. Okay, on hand summary. Okay, so could I take an on hand summary? Let's just see what this looks like, right? I don't have enough inventory to worry about it, right? Just fire the thing off. So that's by department. Didn't really say by department, did it? Let's go back up and try this here. All right, so yeah, here's like the whole thing, right? So if you were to take this and you were to export this out, can we click the export button? Are we still moving around? Okay, now it's just being really, really slow. All right, export to Excel, you see what I mean? Then, and I don't think I have Excel on this VM. Pretty sure I don't. So that we're probably just wasting our time here watching this silly export. But you see where I'm going. If we had this in Excel, you could then sort it by department code, vendor code, like whatever you wanted to do with it, right? And you could then make a plan to quickly gather your counts, right? Now, you know, another option too, that maybe is not a bad one. You could investigate like apps for your phone. I toyed around with one. I have one on my phone, in fact, that is a scanner app. It's actually called Scanner, and it lets me use the camera in the phone to scan items, and it actually works pretty well, surprisingly. And then it saves it and lets me email the file to myself, so I can email it from my phone to my work email. Then I get a CSV is what I get. I get a file that I can import. So I guess I would say to sit down and really look at the options and make the best plan possible. You can rent scanners from us too, right? But I don't know if that's feasible or not. You know what I mean? You have to, it's more about the timing and getting it all done in as tight a window without compromising quality, right? It's quality first, but quantity is a close second. You got to get this done in a fairly quick snapshot. Like you can't drag this out. I've seen people drag it out. I had I had a tech call, another tech actually had a tech call, sucked me into it because they started with 120 and suddenly they had like 270 or something. I don't know. It went totally crazy. And it turned out that what happened is they were taking physical inventory for 2 weeks and somebody had made some adjustments in the middle of the process and changed the on-hand quantity. So the update then just multiplied it, you know, it just became a big mess. Of course, I realized immediately what was going on. and got that figured out for them. So so I guess the plan is the most important thing there. Does that help? Did any of that help at all?
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah,
certainly
that gave
could
me
have.
some ideas for what we need to do.
And if you had to, we could schedule an appointment and we could dig into some of those ideas and see how viable they are, right? But yeah, you got to have a solid plan. You got to have a solid plan about when you open, when you close, when you can do that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a tricky process, and if you don't control it, then and you sell it, you get like that negative quantities, like in my little notes thing there, right? Where we sold one and then we got the wrong discrepancy, which is going to result in the wrong on hand. And you can go positive or negative on that, right? So it can be kind of weird when you see the results and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And then of course it does if you went back and look at but you got to then follow the all right. Anyway, excellent question. Anybody else have any questions? All right. So, all right then. Well, this is Jeff at the Big Hairy Dog, and I want to say thank you for joining the webinar. And if there are no other questions, I will tell you guys to have an excellent day. And I think 2.2 is worth upgrading to if you're on Prism, by the way. I think that there's going to be a few rough edges here and there, right? But I think it's definitely worth looking at. There's a ton of fixes in 2.2, really a ton of fixes, and it's a much better product. So I would say schedule an update to 2.2 if you have not already. I don't think there's that many things that are that wrong with it. They have issued one hotfix already in just a week, but it's pretty solid, and I think it resolves way more than it breaks. So, side note, right? All right, you guys have an excellent day. Thank you again for joining, and I'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, bye bye.